What happens when a man known for his quiet humility suddenly turns the spotlight into something sharper, something heavier, something no one in the room was prepared for? The studio lights glow warmer than usual, almost blinding as they settle over the familiar semicircle of chairs. The energy is routine at first, polished smiles, light chatter, the comforting rhythm of daytime television. The audience is relaxed, some whispering, some laughing softly as the hosts exchange their opening remarks. It's just another episode, just another guest. Until it isn't, because sitting there calm and composed is Keanu Reeves. He's dressed simply, as always, dark blazer, understated shirt, nothing flashy. Yet somehow, the entire room feels like it's orbiting around him. There's something about his presence that silences even the most restless audience members. A quiet gravity. Sunny Hostin leans forward slightly, her posture confident, her tone measured but warm. She's done this 1,000 times, navigated interviews, handled tough guests, asked sharp questions. This is her territory. Keanu, it's such a pleasure to have you here, she begins, her voice carrying that practiced blend of professionalism and curiosity. You've had such an incredible career, but what people seem to love most about you is you. A ripple of applause breaks out. Keanu nods gently, almost shyly. Thank you, he says, his voice low, thoughtful. That's kind. The conversation starts smoothly. It's easy, predictable. They talk about his latest project, the discipline behind his roles, the philosophy he's picked up over the years. The audience leans in, captivated not just by what he says, but how he says it, pausing, reflecting, choosing each word carefully like it matters. And then something shifts. Sunny tilts her head slightly, her expression sharpening just a touch. The kind of shift only someone paying close attention would notice. You've built this image, she says, her tone still polite but edged now, of being almost too good to be true. People call you the nicest man in Hollywood. But I wonder, do you ever feel like that perception puts pressure on you? Or maybe that it hides parts of who you really are? The audience murmurs softly. It's not an aggressive question, but it's not soft either. Keanu doesn't answer immediately. He looks at her, really looks at her. And for the first time since he walked onto the set, there's a flicker of something different in his eyes. Not discomfort, not annoyance. Focus. If by hides you mean simplifies, he says slowly, then yes. I think people like simple stories. It makes things easier to understand. Sunny nods, sensing something deeper. She leans in. But life isn't simple, she presses. And neither are people. So let me ask you this. Do you think the public gets the real you? Or just the version that's safe to admire? There it is. The first spark. The room tightens, almost imperceptibly. Even the co-hosts glance at each other. This isn't the direction they expected. Keanu exhales softly, his hands resting loosely in his lap. I think, he begins, that people see what they need to see. Sometimes that says more about them than it does about me. A few audience members clap, hesitant, unsure whether they're witnessing something profound or something uncomfortable. Sunny smiles, but it's a different kind of smile now. Sharper. That's an interesting way to put it, she says. But let's not deflect. You've been in this industry for decades. You've seen its highs and its darker sides. Yet you rarely speak out about controversies, about injustices, about the things many believe celebrities have a responsibility to address. The temperature in the room drops. It's subtle, invisible to anyone watching casually. But for those inside, hosts, crew, audience, it's unmistakable. This is no longer just an interview. Keanu's gaze doesn't waver. I try to be thoughtful about what I say, he replies. Words have weight, and sometimes speaking without fully understanding can do more harm than good. Sunny doesn't back off. But silence can also do harm, she counters, her voice firmer now. Especially when you have a platform as powerful as yours. A murmur ripples through the crowd again, this time louder. Keanu leans back slightly, considering her words. And then he leans forward. Not aggressively, not dramatically, but deliberately. You're right, he says. The simplicity of the response catches her off guard for a split second. I agree, he continues. Silence can be harmful, but so can noise, especially when it's driven by expectation rather than understanding. The audience goes still. Sunny's expression tightens just a fraction. She's not used to guests meeting her intensity with this kind of calm resistance. So which is it, she asks. Responsibility or restraint? Keanu pauses. And in that pause, something changes. The air thickens. The The conversation stops being about surface-level ideas and starts digging into something deeper. Something personal. I think the real question, he says quietly, is why we expect certain people to carry that responsibility in the first place. A beat. Sunny blinks, clearly not expecting that turn. What do you mean? Keanu's voice remains steady, but there's an unmistakable edge now. Gentle but firm. I mean, why does being visible automatically mean being responsible for speaking on everything? Why do we place that burden on individuals, instead of asking ourselves what role we play? The audience reacts, some nodding, others shifting in their seats. Sunny leans back slightly, studying him now instead of steering him. Well, she says carefully, because influence matters. And with influence comes accountability. Keanu nods. I agree, he says again. But accountability to what? To truth? Or to expectation? That lands. You can feel it land. The co-hosts glance at each other again. One of them opens her mouth as if to jump in, but doesn't. Because this is something else. Sunny inhales slowly, recalibrating. To truth, she says. It has to be to truth. Keanu tilts his head slightly. And who defines that? Silence. Not awkward. Not empty. Heavy. The kind of silence that makes people shift in their seats because they're not sure what comes next. Sunny's composure holds, but just barely. That's a complicated question, she admits. It is, Keanu says. And that's why I think it deserves more than quick answers on a talk show. A few audience members laugh nervously. Others clap. But it's not the same light, cheerful applause from earlier. This is something more uncertain. More divided. Sunny smiles again, but this time, it doesn't quite reach her eyes. Well, she says, that's exactly what we're here for. Conversations that matter. Keanu nods. I agree, he says. As long as we're willing to actually have them. And there it is. The moment. Not loud. Not explosive. But undeniable. The energy in the room shifts completely. What started as a routine interview has turned into something sharper. Something unpredictable. The audience feels it. The hosts feel it. Sunny feels it. And Keanu, he's not backing down. If anything, he's just getting started. Because what happens next, no one in that studio is ready for. And neither are you. If you're already feeling the tension building, make sure you hit that subscribe button for stage view right now. Like the video, drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is only the beginning, and trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. The shift doesn't happen all at once. It creeps in, quiet, deliberate, like a storm rolling across a clear sky that no one thought to question. For a moment after that exchange, the set of The View tries to recover its balance. One of the co-hosts lets out a light laugh, the kind meant to diffuse tension, to bring things back to safer ground. The audience follows with a scattered ripple of chuckles, but it's hollow. Everyone can feel it, something has cracked open, and it's not going to close easily. Sunny Hostin adjusts slightly in her seat, her posture still poised, but her eyes sharper now. She's no longer just guiding the conversation, she's measuring it. So, she says, her tone controlled, though the edge is unmistakable. Are you saying conversations like this don't have value? Keanu Reeves doesn't rush to answer. He studies her again, but this time there's something deeper behind it. Not confrontation for the sake of it, but intention. As if he's choosing not just his words, but the weight they'll carry when they land. I think they have value, he says slowly, but only if they're honest. Sunny's brow tightens slightly. And you don't think this is honest? Another pause. This one longer. More dangerous. I think, Keanu says carefully, that sometimes conversations in spaces like this can become performances. The word hangs there. Performances. The audience reacts instantly, gasps, murmurs, a few audible ohs cutting through the silence. One of the co-hosts shifts uncomfortably, glancing towards Sunny, then back at Keanu. Sunny doesn't flinch, but something in her expression hardens. That's a strong statement, she replies. Are you suggesting we're performing right now? Keanu's voice remains calm, almost disarmingly so. I'm suggesting that when there are cameras, expectations, audiences, it's easy to slip into roles, even unintentionally. Sunny leans forward again, this time more assertively. I take this platform very seriously, she says. We talk about real issues here. We ask difficult questions. That's not performance, that's accountability. A few audience members clap, this time more firmly, as if anchoring themselves to her words. Keanu nods, acknowledging her point. I respect that, he says. I really do. But asking difficult questions isn't the same as having a difficult conversation. That lands even harder than before. Sunny's lips press together briefly. She's not losing control, but she's recalculating fast. And what would a difficult conversation look like to you? She asks. Keanu leans back slightly, then forward again, his hands clasping loosely. It would mean being willing to sit in uncertainty, he says. To admit when we don't have answers. To listen, not just to respond, but to understand. Sunny tilts her head. And you think we're not doing that? Keanu's gaze doesn't waver. I think we're trying, he says. But I also think there's pressure to arrive at conclusions too quickly. To frame things in a way that fits the format. The word format seems to strike something deeper. Behind the scenes, a producer shifts, signaling subtly from off-camera. The rhythm of the show is slipping out of their hands. Sunny notices, but she doesn't look away from Keanu. This format, as you call it, she says, her voice now firmer, is what allows us to reach millions of people. To inform them. To challenge perspectives. That matters. It does, Keanu agrees. But reach doesn't guarantee depth. Another ripple through the audience. You can feel the divide forming now. Some nodding along with him, drawn to his calm, philosophical approach. Others leaning towards Sunny, appreciating her directness, her insistence on accountability. The tension isn't just between them anymore. It's spreading. Sunny exhales, then shifts gears. Let's talk about something specific, she says. You've spoken about compassion, about kindness. Those are values people admire in you. But in today's world, some would argue that kindness without action isn't enough. Keanu listens closely. So let me ask you directly, she continues. When you see injustice, real, tangible injustice, do you believe it's your responsibility to speak out publicly? The question is sharper now, more pointed. The audience leans in again, sensing the escalation. Keanu's expression changes, just slightly. Not defensive, not guarded, but more personal. I believe it's my responsibility to act with integrity, he says. Sunny doesn't let it slide. That's not the same as speaking out. No, he admits. It's not. Then why avoid it? She presses. There's a flicker in his eyes now. Not anger, but something closer to conviction. I don't avoid it, he says quietly. I just don't always do it where people expect to see it. The room stills. Sunny's voice lowers but intensifies. With respect, people can't see what you don't show them. Keanu nods slowly. That's true, he says. But not everything meaningful is meant to be seen. A wave of murmurs sweeps across the audience again, this time more divided than ever. Sunny sits back for a moment, studying him in silence. And then she shifts again, this time not just as a host, but as someone stepping fully into the confrontation. Let me be honest with you, she says. There's a perception, and I'm sure you're aware of it, that staying quiet publicly allows celebrities to maintain their image without taking risks. That it's safe. There it is. The word hangs heavier than any before. Safe. Keanu doesn't respond immediately. But when he does, his voice is different. Still calm. But firmer. Grounded. Do you think that's what I'm doing? He asks. Sunny meets his gaze head-on. I think it's a fair question. The audience reacts audibly now, some clapping, others gasping at the directness. Keanu leans forward again, this time more noticeably. And for the first time since the conversation began, there's a subtle shift in his tone. Not aggression, but clarity. Can I ask you something? He says. Sunny nods. Of course. Keanu's eyes don't leave hers. Do you think speaking publicly always means taking a risk? The question throws her, just for a second. It can, she says, depending on the issue. Keanu tilts his head slightly. Or, he continues, does it sometimes become its own kind of safety? Saying what's expected, aligning with what's already accepted, because it's what people want to hear. The audience reacts louder now, some applause, some murmurs of disagreement. Sunny's composure tightens again. That's a cynical way to look at it, she says. Or a realistic one, Keanu replies. The air between them sharpens. This isn't just a debate anymore. It's a collision of philosophies. Sunny leans in, her voice unwavering. No, she says. What's realistic is that silence protects power, and speaking out challenges it. Keanu doesn't hesitate this time. Only if it's genuine, he says. Their words overlap slightly now, the rhythm no longer controlled. And who decides that? Sunny fires back. We do, Keanu says. Individually, not performatively. The word again. Performatively. It hits harder this time. The audience breaks into a mix of reactions, applause, gasps, even a few voices calling out. The producers are visibly tense now, gesturing more urgently off camera. This is going off script in a way they can't easily contain. Sunny straightens, her tone now unmistakably firm. You keep using that word, she says. Performance. But what I hear is deflection. You're avoiding the core issue. Keanu's expression doesn't change. And what's the core issue, he asks. That people with influence have a responsibility to use it, she says. Not quietly, not privately, but publicly, where it matters. A beat. Keanu nods slowly. And I'm saying, he replies, that how you use influence matters just as much as whether you use it. The silence that follows is heavier than anything before. Because now it's clear. Neither of them is backing down. The audience is no longer just watching. They're choosing sides. And somewhere behind the cameras, the producers are realizing something they didn't expect when the show began. This isn't a segment anymore. It's a moment. One that's about to spiral even further, beyond philosophy, beyond debate, into something neither Keanu Reeves nor Sunny Hostin can easily walk away from. And as the tension reaches a breaking point, one question lingers in the air, unspoken but undeniable. What happens when calm conviction meets unyielding challenge, and neither one blinks? Because what's coming next is where everything changes. The silence doesn't just linger this time, it presses in. It's no longer the kind of pause that belongs on television. It doesn't feel timed or controlled or safe. It feels real, uncomfortable. The kind of silence that forces everyone in the room to confront the fact that something has gone further than intended. Even the lights seem harsher now. One of the co-hosts shifts in her chair, attempting a small interruption. Maybe we can. But her voice fades before it fully forms. No one picks it up. No one redirects. Because all eyes are locked on Keanu Reeves and Sunny Hostin. And neither of them is looking away. Sunny inhales slowly, her composure still intact, but stretched thin in places only the most observant could notice. She's used to controlling the narrative, to guiding conversations through tension and out the other side. But this isn't following the usual arc. This isn't resolving. It's deepening. So let's take this further, she says, her voice steady, but now undeniably sharpened by the weight of everything that's been said. Because what you're suggesting, whether you intend to or not, is that public accountability is somehow less authentic than private action. Keanu doesn't react immediately. He listens fully. That same stillness, that same careful attention, but now it carries something heavier. I'm saying, he replies, that intention matters more than visibility. Sunny shakes her head slightly. But visibility is what creates change, she counters. Movements don't happen in silence. Awareness doesn't grow in the dark. A wave of applause rises from part of the audience, stronger now, more confident. They're not just reacting anymore. They're aligning. Keanu nods, acknowledging them. You're right, he says. Visibility can amplify change, but it can also distort it. That splits the room again. Sunny leans forward, her voice pressing harder now. Distort it how? Keanu's eyes flick briefly toward the audience, then back to her. By turning it into something consumable, he says. Something people can engage with briefly, feel something about, and then move on from. A few scattered claps. A few murmurs of disagreement. Sunny doesn't hesitate. That's a very cynical view of people, she says. Is it? Keanu asks quietly. Or is it an honest one? That question lands differently than the others. It doesn't challenge her directly. It challenges everyone. The audience shifts again. Some uncomfortable, others nodding slowly as if recognizing something they hadn't wanted to admit. Sunny's expression tightens, but she doesn't retreat. I think it underestimates people, she says. I think it dismisses the power of collective awareness. Keanu leans forward slightly. And I think it overestimates the impact of visibility without depth. Their voices don't rise, but the intensity does. It's no longer about who's right. It's about what they represent. Sunny exhales, then changes direction, this time more personal. Let me ask you something else, she says. You've built a reputation, not just as an actor, but as someone people trust. Someone they look up to. Whether you asked for that or not, it exists. Keanu remains still, listening. So when people see injustice, and they look to figures like you for guidance, for solidarity, what do you think happens when they don't hear anything? The question hangs there, heavier than the others. Because now it's not abstract. It's human. Keanu's expression shifts again. Subtle, but real. I think, he says slowly, that it depends on what they're really looking for. Sunny narrows her eyes slightly. And what do you think that is? Keanu pauses. And for the first time, there's a trace of something deeper breaking through. Not just thoughtfulness, but something closer to lived experience. I think people are looking for reassurance, he says. For certainty. For someone to tell them what's right, what's wrong, what side to stand on. Sunny nods immediately. And there's nothing wrong with that. Keanu meets her gaze. No, he says. There isn't. But there's something dangerous about it. The audience quiets again. Dangerous? Sunny repeats. Yes, Keanu says. Because it can take away the responsibility to think for ourselves. That lands hard. You can feel the tension ripple outward, not just between them, but through every seat in the studio. Sunny leans in again, her voice firmer than ever. Or, she counters, it can empower people who feel voiceless. It can give them language, direction, courage. Keanu nods. It can, he agrees. But only if it encourages them to act, not just react. The rhythm of the exchange is faster now. Sharper. Neither of them pausing as long as before. And you don't think public figures help people act? Sunny presses. I think they can, Keanu says. But I also think they can unintentionally create dependency. That word shifts something. Dependency. A few audience members exchange glances. One shakes her head. Another nods slowly. Sunny's tone tightens. So now people who speak out are creating dependency? She asks. No, Keanu says calmly. I'm saying it's a possibility, not an intention. Sunny leans back, crossing one leg over the other, her posture more defensive now. Not in weakness, but in resistance. It sounds like you're placing a lot of responsibility on the audience, she says. And not enough on the people with influence. Keanu tilts his head slightly. Maybe, he says. Or maybe I'm saying the responsibility was always there. That line cuts deeper than anything before. Because it shifts the entire framework of the conversation. It's no longer about celebrities. It's about everyone. The audience doesn't react immediately this time. They sit with it. And that silence, it's different. Not tense. Reflective. But Sunny doesn't let it settle. Let me be very clear, she says, her voice now carrying a weight that commands attention. When we talk about injustice, real injustice, people don't always have the luxury of reflection. They need action. They need voices that are heard. Keanu nods, his expression softening slightly, but not his stance. I understand that, he says. I really do. Then why not be one of those voices? She asks, more direct than ever. The question cuts straight through everything. No philosophy. No abstraction. Just truth. The audience leans in again, waiting. And this time, Keanu doesn't answer right away. Not because he's unsure, but because he's choosing something. Something more deliberate than anything he's said so far. When he finally speaks, his voice is quieter, but it carries further. Because, he says, I don't want my voice to replace someone else's. The room stills completely. Sunny blinks, caught off guard. Not by the words themselves, but by the conviction behind them. What does that mean? She asks, softer now. Keanu's gaze drifts for just a moment, toward the audience, toward the edges of the set, before returning to her. It means, he says, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is make space. A beat. For who? Sunny asks. For the people living it, Keanu replies. The silence that follows is different from anything before. It's not tense. It's heavy, layered, complicated. Some audience members begin to clap, slowly, thoughtfully. Others remain still, arms crossed, unconvinced. Sunny doesn't clap. She studies him. And when she speaks again, her voice has changed. Less sharp, but more precise. And what if those people need amplification? She asks. What if making space isn't enough? Keanu nods. Then you amplify, he says. But you do it carefully. You don't center yourself in the process. Sunny's eyes narrow slightly. And you're confident you've always done that? There it is again. The turn. From philosophy to personal accountability. The audience reacts instantly. Gasps, murmurs, the tension snapping back into place like a pulled wire. Keanu doesn't flinch. But this time, there's no immediate answer. Just a look. A long, steady look that says more than words could. And in that moment, something becomes unmistakably clear to everyone watching. This isn't just a conversation anymore. It's a confrontation of identity, of belief, of responsibility itself. And neither side is stepping back. The producers are moving now, subtle signals, quiet urgency behind the cameras. The segment has gone far beyond its time. The structure of the show is unraveling. But no one dares cut it, because what's happening right now is something you can't script. And just when it feels like the tension can't stretch any further, it does, because Sunny isn't finished. And Keanu Reeves? He's about to say something that will change everything. For a moment, it feels like the entire studio is holding its breath. Not metaphorically, literally. No shifting in seats. No whispering. Even the faint hum of the studio equipment seems to fade beneath the weight of what's about to happen. Sunny Hostin doesn't look away. "And you're confident you've always done that?" she repeats, her voice quieter now, but sharper than ever. "That you've never centered yourself?" It's not just a question. It's a line drawn. Keanu Reeves sits there, still as ever, but something has changed. Not in posture. Not in expression. In presence. This isn't the same calm detachment from earlier. This is something more grounded. More personal. More exposed. He exhales slowly. And when he finally speaks, there's no philosophy in his voice this time. No abstraction. No distance. He says softly. Then corrects himself, almost unconsciously. No. The simplicity of it lands harder than any argument. A ripple moves through the audience. Not loud, not explosive, but deeply felt. "I'm not," he continues. "I don't think anyone can be." Sunny watches him closely, her expression unreadable. "So then what?" she asks. "We accept that. We accept imperfection and just hope people do better quietly." Keanu shakes his head slightly. "No," he says. "We acknowledge it. We stay aware of it. And we try not to be perfect, but to be honest about where we fall short." There's something different in the room now. The tension hasn't disappeared, but it's shifted. It's no longer sharp. It's heavy. Reflective. Sunny leans back slightly, studying him in a way she hasn't before. Not as an opponent, not as a guest to challenge, but as someone revealing something real. "And you think that's enough?" she asks. Keanu meets her gaze. "No," he says. "I think it's where it starts." A long pause follows. This time, no one rushes to fill it. Because for the first time since this began, it doesn't feel like a battle. It feels like something else. Something unresolved, but human. One of the co-hosts finally speaks, her voice tentative. "I think maybe both of you are saying something important," she offers. "That action matters, and intention matters." The audience exhales collectively, some nodding, others still visibly processing everything they've just witnessed. But Sunny doesn't let it settle into an easy conclusion. She leans forward one last time. "Let me ask you something," she says, her tone no longer confrontational, but still direct. "If you had the chance to say something, right now, to the people watching, people who are struggling, who are angry, who are looking for someone to speak, what would you say?" The question lands differently. It's not a challenge. It's an opening. And for the first time, Keanu doesn't hesitate. He looks out, past the hosts, past the cameras, as if he can see through the lens into living rooms, into people sitting alone, into those who came here expecting entertainment and found something else entirely. "I'd say," he begins, his voice steady but softer than ever, "don't wait for someone else to tell you what matters." The audience goes completely still again. "Pay attention," he continues, "to what you feel, to what you see, to what doesn't sit right with you." Sunny listens silently now. "And then act," he says, "in whatever way you can, big or small, public or private. Just don't ignore it." A pause. "Because change doesn't belong to one voice," he adds. "It belongs to all of us." Silence. And then, applause. Not explosive. Not immediate. But rising. Slow. Steady. Real. Some people stand. Others remain seated, clapping thoughtfully. A few don't clap at all, still sitting with their own interpretations, their own disagreements. And somehow, that makes the moment feel even more powerful. Because it didn't tell them what to think. It made them think. Sunny nods slowly, her expression softer now, but not surrendered. "I still believe voices matter," she says. Keanu nods back. "And I still believe how we use them matters," he replies. They hold each other's gaze for a brief moment. Not as adversaries, but as two people who didn't agree. And didn't need to. The camera begins to pull back slightly, the producers finally signaling to wrap. The show is over time. Schedules have been thrown off. Segments delayed. But no one in that room cares about that anymore. Because something happened here. Something unscripted. Something real. As the credits begin to roll, the audience is still buzzing. Some debating quietly, others replaying moments on their phones, already imagining how this will look online, how it will sound when clipped, shared, dissected. And within minutes, it explodes. Clips flood social media. Headlines split into extremes. Keanu Reeves challenges daytime TV culture live on air. Sunny Hostin holds ground in tense celebrity clash. Was it insightful? Or evasive? The internet does what it always does. Chooses sides, builds narratives, simplifies something that was anything but simple. Some call him thoughtful, grounded, refreshingly honest. Others call him vague, avoidant, privileged in his silence. Sunny is praised for her directness, her insistence on accountability, and criticized for pushing too hard, for making it confrontational, for not letting it breathe. But beneath all of that noise, there's something else. Clips that don't argue. Clips that pause. People rewatching that one moment. Because I don't want my voice to replace someone else's. And asking themselves what it means. Back in the studio, long after the audience has left, the chairs sit empty under dimmed lights. The energy is gone, but the imprint remains. A conversation that didn't resolve, didn't conclude, didn't give easy answers. And maybe that's why it mattered. Because sometimes the most powerful moments aren't the ones that tell you what to think. They're the ones that refuse to. So now it's your turn. What did you think of that moment? Was Keanu Reeves right to challenge the expectations placed on public figures? Or did Sunny Hostin raise the more important point about responsibility and speaking out? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear where you stand. And if you felt the tension, the depth, the raw honesty of this story, make sure you subscribe to Stage View for more moments that go beyond the surface. Because sometimes the most explosive stories aren't about who wins. They're about what's revealed.